Hi, I'm Chris, welcome back to FRAG-MENTAL, thanks for joining me. If you're looking to buy a new fragrance and you're wondering what's hot right now, this video is for you because this is what Fragrantica readers voted as the top 10 best men's fragrances of 2024. Yeah, I know I'm doing a few of these Fragrantica Awards videos, but you guys seem to like to watch them and I find it interesting to talk about them, so that's why we're here. Of course, we need to take these lists with a pinch of salt because not everyone is going to agree with the fragrances that end up in this top 10. Some people really agree with the list. Not me entirely, because my favorite fragrance that was released last year, it's not in the top 10. I'll tell you about that right at the end. But for now, let's start off with number 10 on the list, and this is the first of two Boss fragrances. This one is Boss Bottled Elixir. Other than that this fragrance wasn't released in 2024, for some reason the Fragrantica Awards seem to include 23 and 24, I do think this is a fantastic fragrance and deserves to be in the top 10 list. It's got a lovely poppy, cool, spicy opening of cardamom. There's a lot of incense in this fragrance, not to the point where it's challenging, it just straddles that line between being a mass appealing fragrance to be a designer, but then to be interesting and complex enough for people who want a little bit more out of their fragrance. Tons of depth, tons of sophistication. It's a very impactful fragrance. It takes creative risks that I would more associate with a niche brand, but the fact that this is coming from Boss, well done, Boss. Loving what you're doing. Please keep doing it. This is an excellent fragrance. And number 9 is a fragrance I'm not going to spend too long on because I don't have it. From Yves Saint Laurent, this is MYSLF EDP. An enticing note list of bergamot, orange blossom, ambro fix, and patchouli. Okay, not necessarily that enticing a note list, and I feel the same way about the fragrance. In fact, a lot of Yves Saint Laurent's fragrances, myself, I've smelled them and they never really excite me enough to drop the cash on them. They're fine, they're really nice fragrances, but for me, they're not really doing enough to justify spending the money on them. Nice, mass appealing designer fragrance, not in my collection. What do you think? Is this good enough to be in the top 10 list of best fragrances of the year? And number 8 is a brand that I feel is getting quite hyped at the moment. It's definitely trending. I'm seeing a lot of people talking about it. Their fragrances are ending up in a lot of top lists. From Louis Vuitton, this is Pacific Chill. This one has mint, citrus fruit, blackcurrant, rose, dates, and fig. Sorry, guys, I've not smelled this one, but it does sound really nice. I like that note breakdown. Love a bit of fig in a fragrance. Figs are definitely looking up. It does look like another of these Louis Vuitton fragrances that is on the fresh side. Is it doing anything that different, anything that amazing to justify me spending £255 full retail on a bottle? Convince me. If you think it is, maybe I'll drop that money. Up next, we have landed on another Boss fragrance. This is a 2024 release. This is Boss Bottled Absolu. Just like with Elixir, we've got another great use of incense here and some leather. This is a sweet, resinous, woody fragrance. The incense in here is beautiful. It's very rounded. It's got lots of depth. It's got a great quality to it. Again, like with Bottled Elixir, something that really straddles that line between a designer smell and more of a creative niche smell, and it does it really well because it's not challenging in the slightest. This is a super easy fragrance to wear, but it's definitely not a boring fragrance. It is really nicely done. I've seen people compare this fragrance to Parfum de Marly's Carlisle. That is one of my all-time favorite niche fragrances. I do think Carlisle is a better fragrance. I think Carlisle takes a few more creative risks. I think it is slightly more challenging. Not a terribly challenging fragrance to wear, but a little more challenging and complex than this one. Maybe if you find Carlisle a little bit too full on, because it is a very strong, very heavy, dense fragrance. This is doing a similar thing, but not quite to the same degree. Another fantastic release from Boss. Boss are getting a bit of a reputation here for releasing some pretty banger fragrances, to the point where I'm actually really excited to see what the next Boss release will be. I hope they can maintain this upwards trajectory in terms of fantastic releases. The next one is a marine aquatic king. This is Acqua de Joe Parfum. Little bit of marine sea saltiness, lovely use of herbs with rosemary and sage and some incense in there to give some depth. Takes that quintessential manly Acqua smell, adds some extra depth and some extra complexity, puts the incense in there. In my mind, that makes it even more sophisticated and refined. It gives it a little more firepower. So if you like Acqua but you want something that is stronger, longer lasting, something that isn't just a casual wear, something that's more impactful, then I would say go with Acqua Parfum. This is basically the same as the old Profumo. They did release a newer one, which wasn't quite as good, but then since then, a newer Parfum has been released. So the one that is currently available to buy is the one that is pretty much the same as Profumo. So if you like Acqua but you want something more, then you won't go wrong with this. I think definitely deserving of a place in the list. This one is one that I bought because it's in this list, so I guess I got influenced by the Fragrantica users, but I wanted to see what it was like. I hadn't smelled it. If this was voted 5th best men's fragrance of 2024, I needed to smell it. So here it is, Valentino Born in Roma Intense. The only notes listed for this one are vanilla, lavender, and vetiver. Funny one, this, because I don't really get a massive, big, thick, creamy dose of vanilla. It doesn't smell like a really natural vanilla. I don't get that aromatic, very masculine lavender, and I don't really get the dry, earthy woodiness of vetiver. What I do get is a very nice, sweet, slightly powdery scent that is incredibly mass appealing, very designer type smell. There's a smell in here that you get in a lot of designer fragrances that is that sort of engineered, manufactured, easygoing, sort of pleasing, sweet smell. It's nice. It wouldn't be in my list of top 10 fragrances of 2024, not even close. But this is the type of fragrance that frag heads would really hate because it's a little bit generic and it's not doing anything new. But people who aren't into fragrances will love it because it's just a nice, easygoing, sweet smell. If you want something that is a little bit first base but still very nice and very easy to wear, then you'd probably enjoy this. If you're looking for something a bit more than that, disregard. Number 4 is a fragrance that seems to have got massive hype this year. I've seen this everywhere. From Maison Crivelli, this is Oud Maracuja. With this one we get passion fruit, rose, oud, leather and vanilla. I don't have a bottle of this one. I do have a bottle of Inside Parfum's Oud Jumeirah, which is identical to Oud Maracuja, so I don't really need Oud Maracuja. I don't need 2 bottles that smell exactly the same. To me, this is essentially a very wearable rose oud fragrance. It's not too heavy on the rose, not too heavy on the oud, really nicely balanced. But what lifts it slightly away from that typical rose oud combo is the fruitiness. It's got a general fruitiness, but then it's got a bit of a tropical, exotic fruitiness as well, probably coming from the passion fruit. So all those elements combined create this really lovely DNA, and I can see why it's popular because it smells great, the quality is fantastic, it's got a complexity, but it's still very wearable, so it's appealing to a lot of people. I'm loving this one. Fantastic fragrance, very strong, very long lasting. If you want a very powerful, very wearable, fruity rose oud, then Oud Maracuja or Oud Jumeirah is going to scratch that itch for you. Number 3 is a fragrance I picked up partly because it was on this list, but partly because I love this line and I needed to know what this smelled like. I am not disappointed. This is a beautiful fragrance, L'Homme Idéal Parfum from Guerlain. Running through these L'Homme Idéal fragrances is an almond, and it is a boozy almond, like an amaretto sours drink. Actually, I would say the EDP is closer to an amaretto sours because it does have that slightly sour, almost fizzy edge to it. This one, to me, doesn't quite have that. This is deeper, a little bit sweeter, richer, more rounded. It's a fuller fragrance. And out of the two, I've worn them side by side. I just love the depth that this one has over the EDP. So yeah, boozy almond smells a bit like an amaretto. If you like that kind of smell, I think you will love this fragrance. This is probably the best version of it. This one is selling full retail at, I think it's 130. I did get it a bit cheaper. It was about £80. So I'm glad I missed out on it first time round when it was selling at full retail. I didn't pick it up then. I picked it up recently for £80. I think it's worth that much. I don't think I'd want to spend 130 on it, but 80 quid for 100 ml, this is really beautiful stuff. So the thing about this Fragrantica list is it's including fragrances from 2023. 2023. There's some reason why they do that. This is a 2023 release. It was on my list of fragrances, best of 23. This is La Malle Elixir. I'm sure you know what's going on with this one by now, but it takes that minty lavender classic La Malle DNA. It modernizes it, it's deeper, it's richer, it's got a beautiful tobacco honey pairing. To add tobacco and honey to that La Malle DNA is a masterstroke. It just works. All the notes just seem to combine and blend to work perfectly. That La Malle DNA was a game changer. Tobacco and honey are two notes that work so well together, and to blend those into the La Malle DNA, it smells fantastic. It's a perfect flanker because it doesn't take a different path from the original. It builds upon the original, which is what a good flanker should do. So if you're a La Malle fan, you're not annoyed because you don't completely lose that La Malle smell, but you do get something new, and the new part of this, the tobacco and honey, sensational. It's a great fragrance. I'm not surprised that this got voted for. I love it, and I'm really excited to see what they can do with Elixir Absolu with that plum in there, because I think that is going to build even more on the DNA. Flanker of a flanker. Let's go. At number 1 is a fragrance that I did not own until I saw this list. It's one that I've wanted to own. Full retail, a little bit on the pricey side, but I managed to get a little bit of money off this one in a January sale from Parfum Normale. It's Altair. Warm and spicy and creamy. It's got some sweet smoky woods in it. I am loving this. Another 2023 release, so this wasn't released last year. If I'd have had this when it was released, it would have been in my list of best of 2023, because this is really good stuff. It has a fantastic warm spiciness. Reminds me a little bit, to a certain extent, to Maison Margiela's By the Fireplace. It's not got that chestnut accord, but it's got that sweet smoky woods. I don't know if it's coming from the Gaiac wood perhaps, but I get a little bit of By the Fireplace with that warm spiciness, with a little bit of creamy orange, the creaminess probably coming from the praline. It is a amazing creation done by Hamid Murati Kashani, the perfumer who created Leighton and many other fantastic, well-loved scents. He's done a great job. I've been wearing this for the last few days now, and I'm kind of at the point where I don't want to wear anything else. I'm getting a little bit addicted. It is one that I would wear more in the cooler weather. I think autumn, winter. It's still very cool here in the UK right now. Whilst it stays cool, this is going to be getting worn a lot. I can see why this was number 1. So there is the top 10 as voted for by Fragrantica readers. The fragrance that I would have put in, that I think was probably my favourite release of last year, is Kilian's Old Fashioned. Whiskey, dried fruits, absolutely stunning stuff. It was a little bit further down the list, but I'm pretty shocked that this didn't make it into the top 10. I love this stuff. What do you think of that top 10? Do you think there are any fragrances in here that have no business being here? I think there's maybe 1 or 2, but for the most part, I think they are fantastic fragrances. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you liked it. If you did, give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and if you do all that, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.